Hey, welcome back to Snapbolt Games. My name's Max, and I'm here to talk about the top 5 commons from Kamigawa and Dynasty, the new set. The full set just got released today. The full spoiler just came out, so brand new. There's probably some cards I missed, but it literally just came out today, and I'm excited to talk about these cards. So first, I'm going to show off these basic lands. I have a bunch of honorable mentions that I'm going to get through real quick, and then we're going to do the top 5. Let me shout out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/snapbolt. So go check out my YouTube channel. Tons of great Pauper content on there. I play a lot of modern, vintage cube. There's a lot of stuff. So following me on YouTube is the best way to support me. But let's just get right into this. We're recording live right now, twitch.tv/snapboltgames. And let's get into these lands. These lands are so sick. I just really, really like them. I think they just did such a good job. When these come out on Magic Online, I'll definitely be picking up a bunch of each one. I don't know if I'm going to get like both planes and both islands, but I'll definitely be picking these lands up. These are really sweet. I just think they look great. I'm not even into necessarily into getting all the cards in my collection to be either like Japanese in real life or Chinese or foreign cards that everyone likes to get or Italian, but um, I do really like the look of this art. And I just wanted to say, in general, also, the art on this set, they knocked it out of the box. The flavor on this set, they knocked it out of the box. They crushed it. Like, just with everything, all the pilots that crew as if their power was greater. There's that one legendary creature. I think the flavor is so good. It can essentially crew any vehicle. It says vehicles you control have crew two, and then it has 2 power. So it's just like a pilot that can fly any vehicle. So there's some really cool stuff in the set. And like I said, I really like this art. So definitely be picking up. I'm not sure which one I'm going to choose yet, but these lands are just so nice. And now right into the honorable mentions. Like I said, I'm going to go through these pretty quick. I want to keep this video relatively short. So I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail on all these honorable mentions, but we will mention them. I'll read the card as well. Experimental Synthesizer. See if I get all these names right. 1 red, artifact. When Experimental Synthesizer enters the or leaves the battlefield, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. 3 mana, sacrifice it, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance, activate only as a sorcery. So this is a good card advantage, uh, essentially like a way to get card advantage, maybe in something like Affinity. Um, it is nice, you can sacrifice it to things like Deadly Dispute. The problem is you pay the 1 red, and then you have to exile the top card of your library and cast it that turn. So you have to pay the red and cast another spell or play the land that you hit that turn. And if you need to pay the 3 to sacrifice it, it leaves the battlefield triggers. You get that to exile a card, but then you also have to play it that turn. So your deck has to be incredibly cheap, essentially, to be able to pay the 1 and then play the next card. That being said, it's still pretty good. If you can flicker this, you're getting a lot of value. It's going to leave and come back. So it does have a lot of nice synergy. Yeah, Chad is mentioning synergy with Core Skyfisher and Glinthawk. Absolutely. I mean, that's a really good like card advantage machine for Boros Monarch. So there is definitely some application, and it's just an artifact that sits in play for Affinity. So definitely something to look at. Let's keep moving along. Another honorable mention. These are in no particular order. At least the honorable mentions. The top 5 I do have in an order. Kami of Industry, 5 mana, 3/6 Spirit. When it enters the battlefield, return target artifact card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So, the way I see this card, I don't see it being quite good enough, honestly, but it is pretty cool. Maybe there's 3 mana artifacts I'm not thinking about. But 5 mana, 3/6, and then you can return Ichor Wellspring to the battlefield, draw a card, and then you sacrifice it, draw another card. So it's essentially like a red build your own Muldrifter Mully D. But you have to have the Deadly Dispute in the graveyard. It's easier to disrupt. The thing is, if you have other good artifacts to get back, this can give you a little more modality, a little more utility. But if you don't have an artifact in your graveyard, it's just an unplayable 5 mana, 3/6. So for that reason, I see it not being good enough, but it is good, and maybe it does have potential in like a mostly Rakdos or like a Jund deck with Deadly Dispute, Ichor Wellspring, stuff like that. Plus, you can just bring back a some random 3 mana artifact creature and hit them. So that's kind of cool. But let's keep it moving. Another honorable mention. Virus Beetle. I don't think this one's that good, but 2 mana 1/1. It's just basically there's a couple cards that do this. I think there's already 2 printed cards that is 2 mana 1/1, one black, one colorless creature. Make them discard a card. But this is an artifact, so who knows if this is going to be playable and if you're going to want it in some random type of you know artifact synergy deck or not. It's just something to mention, but probably doesn't make the cut. This card is actually pretty interesting. Coiling Stalker, 1 green, 1 colorless, 2/1 Snake Ninja, ninjutsu for 1 green, 1 colorless. Whenever Coiling Stalker deals damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control that doesn't have a +1/+1 counter on it. So essentially, you get to ninjutsu something, and then this can either put a counter on itself or another creature you have. And then if it hits again, you get to keep putting counters around. I don't see this necessarily in Fey because it's green, and blue-green Fey is kind of a stretch. But maybe in some type of stompy build, especially if you have creatures with decent enter the battlefield effects. I mean, bouncing back like a Nest Invader, it's okay, I guess. That's kind of clunky. And some of your other creatures in like stompy you don't want to bounce back. But for 2 mana, you get to put a counter, and then you threaten to put more counters. And if you get value out of bouncing something back, like a spell spitters, right, then you can get some pretty good value out of this card. So don't count it out, but probably not good enough. This card is basically just a counter spell, Disruption Protocol, blue, instant, counter target spell, but as additional cost, tap an untapped artifact or pay 1. So it's either cancel or you can just tap a random artifact. It does seem interesting because I could see a deck where you play 4 counter spell and then you also play some number of Disruption Protocol. If you have like random artifacts from Thraben Inspector or like random treasures sitting around, this essentially becomes counterspell a lot of the time, especially if you have artifact creatures like Frog Nightmare Enforcer. So just something to watch out for. Not sure if it's going to make the cut though. So another honorable mention here. Can I read this right? Mukotai Mukotai. I cannot say it, but Ambusher. 4 mana, 3/2 lifelink, ninjutsu for 2. I do see this card, potentially seeing some play, especially in UB Fey, because right now they play the I'm blanking on the name. 1 black, 1 colorless instant, put a +1/+1 counter, and a lifelink counter. Is it? It gives it lifelink permanently, right? Um, but I think this might be better than that because you can just cast it, and if you ninjutsu it against burn, they have to have mana up to answer it. Otherwise, you get to ninjutsu, which in Fey is a bonus. Bouncing Augur, Fairy Seer, Spell Stutter Sprite, those are all good things to bounce. Yeah. Unexpected Fangs is the card I was thinking of. Let's do this real quick. Thank you, chat. Yeah, and a lifelink counter. So Unexpected Things does give lifelink permanently, which is good with Gurmag Angler. But I could see this kind of, maybe doing 1 Fangs, 1 or 2 of these in the sideboard. Just when you really want the life point swing, it seems pretty reasonable. So that's kind of a cool card there. Let's keep going with the honorable mentions. This one I thought was really interesting. There's another card similar. There's another saga I think might see some play. First, let me say I don't think this is good enough, but it is interesting, and I'll get into why. So it's the Modern Age, 1 blue, 1 colorless, Enchantment Saga. This is the first time we're seeing sagas at common. So really interesting. So when you play it, you get the first chapter when it comes into play. Then after you draw a card, you get on your next turn you get the second chapter, and then when you draw a card on your next turn, you get the third chapter. So this is just comes into play loots. Next turn after you draw, you loot again, and then you exile it, return it transformed, and it's just a 2/3 flying. And okay, that's pretty bad, especially because you have to exile it. It comes back. It does not have haste. So first turn play it, loot. Second turn loot. Third turn exile it, bring it back as a 2/3 flyer. But you only paid 2 mana. So for 2 mana, you got 2 mana, draw 2, discard 2, 2/3 flyer. That's a lot. If it was just 2 mana, 2/3 flying, draw 2, discard 2, that would be really, really good. It's just so much slower than that I don't think it's actually good, but you still get a lot of stuff for only 2 mana. And maybe there's ways to abuse it. Maybe you want to keep looting. You can like flicker it, bring it back as the Modern Age, do stuff like that, bounce it back to your hand, replay Modern Age, keep looting. So there is some potential, but just too slow, I think. 2 mana, loot, do nothing, and then loot again, do nothing. It's just not fast enough for Pauper. This card, actually, I thought was really close. This card was in contention for making my top 5. So 4 mana, 2/2, Human Ninja, Moonsnare Specialist. So same overall cost as Ninja the Deep Hours, but it's Ninjutsu 3. And then when it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. This card, I'm having a difficult time evaluating it because it seems like it could just be a blowout in certain matchups where you bounce their creature, you get to hit them, you bounce your spell stutter sprite, you just crush them. However, in certain matchups in Pauper, you really don't want to be bouncing creatures that much. A lot of creatures, spell stutter sprite, augur, everything in Fey basically, you just almost never want to bounce it. So it's tough. I mean, even in Pauper, people just play things with a bunch of enter the battlefield abilities, so you really don't want to be bouncing stuff a lot of the time. You'd rather just kill it. So for that reason, I left it off the top 5, but another honorable mention there. This card I think is interesting for a deck that I don't like, and it would go in mono black burn. So it's Okiba Reckoner Raid, 1 black enchantment saga. First chapter, they lose 1, you gain 1, so drain for 1. Next chapter, drain for 1. Third chapter, transform it, comes back in as a 2/2 menace, and then vehicles you control have menace. The vehicles you control have menace I think is irrelevant, but for 1 mana, you get drain for 2, 2/2 menace. So for mono black burn, that might be enough. That's a lot for 1 mana. Of course it's slow, but you're in burn, like in mono black burn, you're not necessarily in a rush to get the 2/2 because mostly you care about 1 mana drain 2. If it was like a sorcery, 1 mana drain 2, sure, that's not good enough. But then following up with a 2/2 menace that can push damage or they have to spend a removal spell on, you have other creatures in mono black burn, so I could actually see this seeing play there. That being said, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. I don't think it'll push that deck into the realm of playability. But I think it could fit in that deck. Oh, yeah, good point. This is a rogue, which triggers that rogue card that mono black burn plays. Good point, Pauper Tim. Always clutch there. So yeah, I mean it's pretty well suited for that deck. So we'll have to see if mono black burn picks this up or not. But again, I don't think that deck is very good. Let me just double check here. One. Okay, now we are going to move on to the top 5. So, top 5 cards for Pauper. There's actually a lot of good ones from this set, so there's some bangers here. Let's just get right into it. The number 5 card, I hope I did my math right here, is Network Disruptor. This card seems really good. That goes along with some of the other cards in the top 5. 1 mana, artifact creature, Moonfolk Rogue, 1/1 flying. When it enters the battlefield, tap target permanent. So this has a lot of application. There's other good ninjutsu cards in Pauper, and there's other good ninjutsu cards in this set. But 1 mana, 1/1 flying, it's just a flying man. But when it ETBs, tap target permanent. So that does a lot. It doesn't do anything on turn 1, so it's just a flying man turn 1, but it still is an enabler for other ninjutsu cards that you're going to have in your deck. And then when you bounce it back with ninjutsu, let's say you put in a Ninja of the Deep Hours, you draw a card. Next turn, they play a creature to block. Oh, Network Disruptor, tap your blocker, attack, draw. So it does have some good play patterns like that. And then you maybe attack with it again next turn, bounce it back, and then tap again. So you keep tapping down their creatures as you keep ninjutsuing this back. Not only that, but let's say they leave 2 mana up. I could see a lot of lines where you go Network Disruptor, tap your land, and then attack, and then ninjutsu. So pretty interesting top 5 card here. We'll see if it sees some play. It may or may not. Maybe some of the honorable mentions will see play, and Disruptor will not. But I just feel like this has potential, of course, along with some other cards in the top 5 here, like I mentioned. So number 4 card, Moonsnare Prototype. I think I even underestimated this card when I first read it. I think this card really does have potential. I'm not sure exactly how to utilize it, but obviously you can compare it to Springleaf Drum. So 1 blue artifact, tap it, tap an untapped artifact or creature you control, add 1 colorless mana. So Springleaf Drum is just tap a creature, add 1 mana of any color, and it costs colorless. So Springleaf Drum, the advantages is is it fixes your mana because it adds mana of any color. The disadvantages of this is that it costs blue mana to play and it doesn't add even blue mana, it only adds colorless. But the upside of this is twofold in that you can tap an artifact, which is huge, and then it has this channel ability. 5 mana, discard it. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it on top or bottom of its owner's of their library. So the one of the biggest downsides of Springleaf Drum, it's really good in your opening hand a lot of times, but it's really bad when you top deck it in the late game when you need gas, when you need a threat, when you need something to do. But Moonsnare Prototype does not have that downside because when you draw this late, you at least get an expensive removal spell. And again, tapping an artifact is a lot better than tapping a creature because if you have a treasure, a clue, just a random artifact sitting around, you can even use other Moonsnare prototypes or Springleaf Drums to tap this one. So you could even play 4 drum, 4 prototype, and just use your prototype, tap your drum to add 1 mana. So there's some pretty cool stuff you can do with this card. And again, I think this channel ability shouldn't be underrated because having your Springleaf Drum be a removal spell in the late game is really good. And you might say, well, putting it on top's not that good. They just get to redraw it. Sure. But a lot of times you can set something up where they can't put it on top, otherwise they're going to lose, so they have to bottom. It's just a removal spell on your Springleaf Drum. And the tapping of artifacts is relevant too. So nice, number 3 card there, Moonsnare Prototype. Let's go. Oh, that was number 4 card. Now we're going number 3. Number 3. Spirited Companion. This is a good boy. I should have had Lewin here. Spirited Companion, 1 white, 1 colorless, enchantment creature dog, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. So this is just an Elvish Visionary, but it has a lot of other. Oh yeah, the channel ability can't be countered. Good point, chat. But this is just an Elvish Visionary, but it's white. First of all, that's a huge bonus, and it's an enchantment, so you could have some synergies with the enchantment as well. One reason why I see this card seeing some play is because Ephemerate costs 1 white mana, and there's nothing in white or really in blue, which often gets paired with Ephemerate, where it's 2 mana 1/1 draw card. We don't have that yet. We do have Elvish Visionary, but this being in white, like I really want to try this card in Evoke. Just play 4 of these in Evoke, and then you have another Ephemerate target where you can just continually draw cards early. You can like block with it, Ephemerate it, and you just keep the cards flowing. Sometimes in Evoke you get messed up when you're just like sitting there, you're a little bit flooded. So I'm really excited to try this card, and I could see it have other applications too. You know, just getting a body, drawing a card, and it is an enchantment, so maybe even I don't know if Boggles is going to want it, but it's an enchantment that pumps up your other enchantment matter stuff. It can chump. You can even put auras on it if you're in a pinch. So yeah, good boy, Spirited Companion, number 3 card from MTG Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to number 2 card here. This card seems really, really good to me, and I think chat can probably tell you what this card might remind them of. And it's a Reckoner's Bargain, 1 black, 1 colorless instant. At an additional cost to cast this spell, sack an artifact or creature. You gain life equal to the sacrifice permanent's mana value. Draw 2 cards. What does that remind you of? Deadly Dispute. Now, I think Deadly Dispute probably is better, but honestly, I'm not really sure. Because Deadly Dispute is the same casting cost, same additional cost to cast, instant. Deadly Dispute gives you a treasure and you draw 2 cards. This you get to gain life equal to the sacrifice permanent's mana value. That's so good. That's in Affinity, your permanents often cost so much. Frogmite costs 4 mana, 4 CMC, 4 mana value, but you always play it for 0. Mirror Enforcer costs 7. Imagine having this card in your deck against Burn. You're just like, Mirror Enforcer, go. They're like, okay, bolt it again. You're like, sack it to Reckoner's Bargain, gain 7. That's such a big blowout. Not only just sacking Ichor Wellspring, gain 2, draw 2, then draw a card off Ichor Wellspring. Sure, it's not Ancestral Recall because Deadly Dispute, cost 2 and then you get 1 mana back. And it fixes your mana. Deadly Dispute's still better, but having a couple of these in Affinity is going to happen. I'm telling you, it is going to be so good. You might even just want to just ditch the Thoughtcasts now, go red-black Affinity, You know, play some extra Terrarions, play like 4 Deadly Dispute, 2 or 3 Bargain, and you're just going to be ripping through your deck. Gaining some life is really nice in a lot of matchups. So I really see Reckoner's Bargain seeing a lot of play here. There's other permanents as well that have affinity for artifacts that you might be able to just like sacrifice. I mean, you can still sacrifice, like if they try to kill your Serpent or something that costs 7 mana, right? You can still just gain 7 off that. So yeah, Reckoner's Bargain, number 2 card from MTG Neon Dynasty. Let's go number 1 card. I think everyone, if you've been looking at the spoilers, you're going to know what it is. And yep, Spell Pierce. 1 blue instant, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2. I mean, we've just not seen this efficiency before. This is just so good for 1 mana. Counter target non-creature unless its controller pays 2. There's just like, we don't have anything like this. All right, that's a bad joke. We have Spell Pierce, obviously. This is a reprint. But let's go to the real number 1. Moon Circuit Hacker, 1 blue, 1 colorless, enchantment creature, human ninja, ninjutsu for 1 mana. 1 mana. When Moon Circuit Hacker deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Sounds like Ninja of the Deep Hours. If you do, discard a card. Okay. Unless Moon Circuit Hacker entered the battlefield this turn. So basically, in layman's terms, that means when you ninjutsu it in, it entered the battlefield, you hit, you draw a card. Sick. Got the Spell Pierce. And other than that, you get to loot. But this seems honestly better than Ninja of the Deep Hours to me, though, because for a couple reasons. Ninjutsu 1 is so cheap. So cheap. 1 blue, 1 colorless, 2/1. You can just cast it for 2. Ninja of the Deep Hours costs 4 and ninjutsu for 2. This still draws a card the first turn you play it. You can even ninjutsu this back with your other ninjutsu creatures and keep drawing if you need the card advantage. But also looting, especially if you set your deck up correctly, you might be able to loot away extra lands, and you don't even care about the loot. It's just as good as the draw in a lot of situations. So this card is going to see so much play. The first deck I'm going to brew is going to be based around this card. Obviously, a lot of people have the same deck in mind, just mono blue Fae with this card, with Ninja. I have some ideas about how to build the deck, maybe that people aren't thinking of, but I will definitely make a video of that right when the cards come out on Magic Online. So looking forward to that. Again, number 1 card right here, Moon Circuit Hacker. We'll go through the top 5 here. Let's see. Number 5 card, Disruptor. Number 4, Prototype. 3, Spirited Companion. 2, Bargain. And 1, this Moon Circuit Hacker. So those are my top 5 cards from MTG Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I don't know why I keep saying MTG. It just sounds right. From Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Leave a comment in the description or in the comments below on YouTube. Let me know what you think the top 5 should be. Let me know if I missed any honorable mentions there. I probably did. Again, the spoiler just came out, so I was just going through it. I definitely missed some things, and pick up these lands, because these lands are awesome. So thanks everyone on YouTube. We're gonna play some Pauper right now on Twitch, but we'll see everyone on YouTube next time. Peace.